Living a celibate lifestyle for over 8.5 years, long years. And so, I started back when I got, more serious about my walk with God, and just wanted to make sure that I was living and adhering to the things that His Word says. And so, for me, it was more of a spiritual decision at first, and then for those who have heard, he's discussed this topic before. It's very interesting to rededicate yourself back to following God. And for those who may not know, I'm an associate minister at my church, and very serious about kind of spreading that message. And as part of spreading that message, just kind of adhering to what the Word says about premarital sex, and trying to refrain from that until marriage, and so on and so forth. And so that is. That was the first factor, and then also just kind of looking at the emotional and physical, results and ramifications of not living a celibate lifestyle began to really, really surface, especially as I went out into more mainstream environments, and really looking at, all right, how can I share this message with those inside of the church, but as well with those who may not necessarily be Bible-believing Christians, and those who don't attend church. Well, how can I share the celibacy message with them as well? So for me, it was a spiritual, influence to start with. But then after that, I started to learn about the physical, the physical results or ramifications of not living a celibate lifestyle, as well as the emotional, results as well. So it became those three factors: the spiritual, the physical, and the emotional. Yeah, my personal definition of celibacy, and I get this quite frequently. There's one that talks about, living a single or a sex-free life for life, and that's kind of attributed to those who are in the priesthood. But for me, celibacy is abstaining from sexual relations, and that's a temporary season until one makes the commitment to go into to being married. And so, that's my definition. That's the definition that I use as the baseline for the celibacy and sexy movement. Is there a difference between celibacy and abstinence? That's a question that I get quite frequently as well. And I think I alluded to it a little bit earlier. You can abstain from anything. You can abstain from TV. You can abstain from water. You can abstain from food. You can abstain from, pretty much anything. But celibacy is more of an abstaining from sexual relations. And it's usually primarily attributed to spiritual or religious beliefs. And so those are the differences there. Celibacy is abstaining from sexual relations, primarily attributed to spiritual or religious beliefs, whereas abstinence is just refraining from something, and it can be a myriad of different things that you can abstain from, and it's usually not attributed to any religious or spiritual belief. And that's one of the questions that typically comes up, because people will look for a loophole to experience the sexual release that they may be feeling on the inside, and so one of the things, it comes down to self-discipline, but then it also comes down to every time you take a step towards trying to fulfill yourself in some alternative way sexually, you'll still find yourself yearning for more. And so instead of actually doing yourself a favor, you're actually fanning the fire that kind of burns within. And so, for me, the level of affection has to be a mutually agreed upon set of criteria between two people, and primarily that is, from an acceptable perspective, holding of hands, hugs, and then somebody may say kissing falls in that category as well. I'm not anti-kissing, and so the only thing that I would say is that you have to be mindful of the person that you're with, just from the perspective of that might be a trigger for them wanting something more. And so you just got to be, keep that in the back of your mind, and understand that it's a two-way street. It's not what you want, but it's what you guys agree upon together, and making sure that you don't set up each other to fail or to fall as part of your relationship, because I might be able to kiss, but that might be a trigger for someone else. And if that's their trigger, I'm gonna have to, kind of put myself under self-control to make sure that is the case. I started Celibacy is Sexy back in June of 2012, and it was started as a movement to help mobilize people towards understanding, acknowledging, and really get a viewpoint of celibacy and the option of celibacy as a lifestyle until one decides on marriage. Well, the motivating factors for starting Celibacy is Sexy were just simply to educate myself first and foremost as I continue to spread the message. It's the lifestyle that I've been living for many years, but wanted to find a way to really take the movement to another level. And so, the motivating factors behind it was to, first better understanding myself and to see if there's any differentiating approaches that I could take in order to try to really educate those who had questions or who were desiring to live that particular lifestyle. And so that was the first thing. And then secondly, just to help people live better lives from a relational perspective, and just really honing in on, this as an option for them, not really going out and banging people over the head to force them to do it, but just giving this to them as a viable option and to put a face to the whole celibacy movement. And to let people know that it's not for weirdos, it's not for those who are undesirable, but it's a very relevant lifestyle for those who just want to live it and live effectively and not give themselves away physically. Well, to be honest with you, I'm sort of at a crossroads at this point as it relates to, what's next with the Celibacy is Sexy movement. Well, I've kind of scaled it back, and I refer to it now as just more specifically as the Celibacy Movement. It gives me more of a mainstream appeal and trying to get into different organizations, especially churches who may take offense towards the word sexy. And so, kind of scaling it back, making it more of a broad approach, giving it a more streamlined, messaging and naming convention. And then, with me now being engaged and being, on the path of being married by the end of the year, my approach to this whole topic will shift a little bit, and I think it'll be more of me documenting my journey a little more specifically, as well as just being able to show people what it looks like as you are moving from living a celibate lifestyle and then transitioning into to the land of being a married person, and what that early stage of marriage looks like after coming out of living a celibate lifestyle. Very challenging, but just being able to take a step back and say, okay, every time that you sleep with this person, sleeping with that person, and then the results of all the people that they've slept with. And so, do you want to continue to position yourself that way? I talk about the sexual transmitted disease component of it. I talk about for those who may not necessarily have kids at this point, the single parenting component of it, and exposing oneself to being or getting pregnant as a part of that process as well, and just began to just look at all of the various avenues associated with not living a celibate lifestyle and engaging in premarital sex and not desiring to abstain. And so it becomes very interesting to try to share this message with a broad group of people, but I've taken it upon my shoulders to do such. I don't want to just be narrowed down into the church, but I also want to be able to share it with the masses as well.